Hello, in this video we're looking at issue 7 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine, and then playing the game that comes with it where we learn how to roll to wound. Hello, I'm Will, this is Mike, we're the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we're bringing you issue 7 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. This issue comes with 3 pots of paint. We've got Retributor Armour, Corax White and Mechanica Standard Grey. We're going to have a look at the issue first, but if you want to skip straight to the battle report you can use the timecode in the description or the chapter bars. But inside the issue... So first we have a section on the names and titles of the Ultramarines chapter. So there's a name generator here. If you want to give names to your Ultramarines models, you can use this. There's Roman style names here, because that's what the Ultramarines tend to have. It's what's called a D66 table. You roll 2d6 and then label 1 as the 10s and 1 at the units, and you get a number between 11 and 66 effectively, and you can just look up the result. And then over the page, you can also give them hero titles and honorifics for characters and units respectively. And these are D33 charts, which you just roll 2d3 and it's basically the same procedure. So just that helps you add a bit of character to your models if you want to. And then we have a similar thing for the Necrons. So there's a D66 chart for names here. So there's given names here and then titles for Necron nobility. And the same over here, some dynastic epithets and Necron unit names as well that you can use if you want to. Then we have some background on the era Indomitus, which is the point we are at in the Warhammer 40,000 timeline at the moment. The background to this is basically the Great Rift has opened across the galaxy and the Primarch Rabute Guilliman has been resurrected, but he finds the Imperium to be in disarray and beset on all sides by its enemies. But it doesn't take him long to realise that if all the Imperium's fighting forces were a bit more coordinated, they might have more of a fighting chance. And so to that end, he establishes the Indomitus Crusades, which gives the Era Indomitus their name, which are gatherings of military forces that sent out to achieve specific objectives and try and drive back the tide. And it also mentions how Guilliman himself took up the mantle of Lord Commander of the Imperium to accomplish his objectives. Then we have a painting guide for using our new paints, although first there's just a reminder of some techniques, making a point on your brush, and also how the brush direction can make your painting more accurate and make fewer mistakes. But then we're starting off with Corax White, adding this to the chapter symbol and the close assault symbol on the pads of the assault intercessors. It also tells you to paint white the details on the aggressor's bases. Then we apply white to the Primaris captain, so we've got his knee pad and the inside of his cloak and the skull on his shoulder. Also his face, which does look a bit odd at the moment when he's got a face completely white, but that's just giving it a solid base for when we get a flesh-coloured paint later on. Help the flesh paint cover a bit better. And also the outside of the shield for the lieutenant and the stripe down his helmet. It also tells you to paint the Necron skull on his base with Rune Lord brass to match the Necrons we've got. And then we use the Retributor armour paint to paint the gold sections, so the trim on the Space Marine shoulder pads and so forth, and the eagles on their chests. And then similarly for the aggressors, adding in a couple of little trinkets that they have on their belts. And then the captain has quite a lot of gold on him, with laurel halo and scabbard decoration and things like that. And finally the Primaris Lieutenant, including the trim on his shield where you've just painted it white. Already with these colours added, you can see the miniature starting to come more to life, even with only 3 or 4 colours on all of them. But that's it for our issue content, so we'll now head into our game for this issue.
So now we can get into our game for this issue, Necron Resurgence. So after the last few battles, the Space Marines have been turning the tide against the Necrons in the complex on Megaria, but the Necron nobility are starting to reawaken in their stasis chambers, and the Necron warriors are being called to defend their masters, and obviously the Space Marines want to stop that from happening. So in this game we have 2 assault intercessors facing off against 3 Necron warriors. We're on the larger board as it shows down here. We have an objective at point E, and then the assault intercessors are 9 inches either side of it. And then the Necron warriors at point A and B, and then there's one in the middle 9 inches away from the other 2. So we've got some more stats on the data sheets for the models we have. So we can see that Assault Intercessors have a Strength and a Toughness, both of 4. And they also have stats for their heavy bolt pistols now. You can see that they have an 18-inch range, their Pistol 1 and a Strength 4, and AP-1. And you can see their chainswords are Strength User. So what that means is they use the Strength value here. So the chainswords are Strength 4 as well. And then they're also AP-1. And then for the Necron Warriors, we can see they have a Toughness of 4. Still don't know what their strength is. And then their Gauss Flares have a 24-inch range. The Rapid Fire 1, which we saw in the last game, their Strength 4 and AP-1. what does all this strength and toughness mean? Well, you can see we've got this table down here. So now there's essentially an extra step. After you roll to hit, you need to see if that hit actually is powerful enough to cause a wound. And then you need to roll a number, and you work out what that number is by comparing the strength of the attack to the toughness of the whatever's being hit. And so you can see here, if the strength is twice, you wound on a 2+. Strength is greater than you wound on a 3+. If it's equal, it's a 4+, and so on. In this example here, you can see a Space Marine has fired his bolt pistol at the Necron. The bolt pistol strength 4, while the Necron's toughness 4, so that hit wounds on a 4+. And then you make saves as normal after the wound, so hits aren't just automatic wounds anymore. And we've got the example for the game here. There isn't too much to go over in this, it just shows examples of wounding actions. So you can see here on the Necron turn, the Necrons are shooting. You see this one is in rapid fire range, so it gets to shoot twice. You roll to hit as normal, and Necrons hit on 3s. So this Necron warrior here got a single hit, and then needed to roll a 4+, but only rolled a 1, so it didn't wound. So that spaceman he was shooting at doesn't need to make any saves, and is unharmed. And then the play will continue as normal. And the objective of this game is that the Necron warriors have 5 turns, and they win the game if they can start their turn with the Necron warrior in contact with the objective. Otherwise, the Space Marines win if they wipe out the Necrons or 5 turns pass. So we'll set up the board and get straight into the game. So here we have our board set up. We have the 3 Necron warriors over on the left, and the 2 assault intercessors, and the objective over on the right. And like in the previous games, none of the terrain matters for this purpose of this game. And the Space Marines get to go first, so we're into Space Marines turn 1. So my turn's going to be very simple. The 2 assault intercessors are just going to move up normally. I could advance, but if I stay more than 17 inches away, the Necrons won't be able to rapid fire at my assault intercessors on their turn, so I'm just going to move up normally. And that'll be it, and we'll head into Necrons turn 1.
So for all 3 Necrons, they're going to move up 5 inches, and then they can still shoot because they didn't advance, but because the Space Marines are more than 12 inches away, I can only get them 1 shot. We'll start with this one down here, closest to the camera. We'll shoot at the one over in the opposite side. So because these weapons are rapid fire 1 and they're more than 12 inches, or more than half their range away, they only get 1 shot, which is hitting on a 3. It did. And then now we need to be wounding. It's strength 4 and Space Marine is toughness 4, which, as we saw in the example, is a 4+ to wound. I did not with a 3, so the Space Marine does not need to make a save. Now we'll do this Necron in the middle. He'll shoot at this one over here.
Yeah, the one on the top right.
Same thing, 1 shot hitting on a 3. That hit, and wounding on a 4. That is a wound this time, and these guns have an AP of -1.
It says a 4+ save now for the assault intercessors. Roll a 4, so he's okay.
And I'll just do the other Necron at the same time and shoot at the same intercessor. He hit on a 5 there, and he wounds on a 4. That's a wound again.
4+ save. Failed that time, so that assault intercessor at the top takes a wound. Well, that's it for the Necron turn. One of the assault intercessors is now wounded. And we could head into Space Marines turn 2. Both of the assault intercessors are just going to move up normally again so that they can shoot and then charge later on. And the shooting phase, I'll start with this assault intercessor. He's going to shoot this Necron in the middle. He has 1 shot with his heavy bolt pistol hitting on a 3. He hit. It's strength 4, Necron's a toughness 4, so it's wounding on a 4. It did not. And then that wounded assault intercessor at the top, he's going to shoot at the same target. Once again hitting on a 3. He hit. Wounding on a 4. He didn't either. This assault intercessor at the bottom is going to try and charge this Necron down here in the bottom left. He needs an 8 to get within an inch. Well, he rolled a 9, that is enough to get him into engagement range. So that will get him into contact with that Necron. Intercessor at the top is going to try and charge, and he'll try and charge the Necron over in the top left. He's going to need a good roll as well. Ooh, get the other dice in the box. Oh, a 9. That is actually what he needed. And that 9-inch charge is enough to get him into contact with that Necron. I'll start the fight phase with him. He has 2 attacks with his chainsword, hitting on 3s, getting a single hit. He wounds on a 4 because he is strength 4, and the chainsword is strength user. He wounded, that's AP -1.
So a 5+ save for this Necron. Nope.
So that Necron takes a wound and dies.
So that destroys that Necron.
And now we have the other assault intercessor down at the bottom of the board. 2 attacks hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits, wounding on 4s, getting no wounds. And the Necrons don't get to strike back yet, but it's now their turn too.
And then for my movement, the Necron in the middle has moved up 5 inches, heading further towards that objective. The one down the bottom there that seems still engaged with an assault intercessor, we don't know what Necron weapon skill or strength is yet, so I can't actually attack him in melee, but if I keep him in melee, he has to spend his whole turn being in melee and hitting me with his chainsword, which means that he can't charge the one I'm hoping to get to the objective, so hopefully he's just going to hold him up. So with that in mind, the one who moved in the middle is going to shoot at this one at the top who is wounded and unengaged. He definitely is within 12 inches now, so he gets double his shots with his rapid fire weapon, hitting on 3s. We've got 2 hits, and wounding on 4s. We've got 1 wounded, an AP of -1.
So a 4+ save. Oh, he failed, so that Assault Intercessor takes his 2nd wound and dies. Only 1 Space Marine remaining, but that is the end of Necron turn 2. On to Space Marines turn 3. So I could fall back and try and head up that other Necron, but if I do that, the Assault Intercessor can't do anything else this turn, and he'll probably just get shot by the 2 Necrons. So I'm going to stay in melee and try and finish off this one that I'm engaged with. But first, in the shooting phase, the Assault Intercessor gets to fire his pistol, because obviously it's a pistol and you can shoot those while still in engagement range. We have 1 shot hitting on a 3, it hits, and it wounds on a 4. It does.
I need a 5+ to save. Oh, I made it with a 6.
That is important. The reason that's important is that if the Assault Intercessor had killed the Necron with his shooting attacks, he would become unengaged and could then charge later in the turn. So it is important the Necron's made that save. Then in the fight phase, as the Assault Intercessor gets to attack with his chainsword, he has 2 attacks hitting on 3s, getting a hit, wounding on a 4. He failed to wound. And that's the Space Marine turn. On to Necron's turn 3.
Well, with that result, that means that the Space Marine is going to be held up for a further turn, so this Necron in the middle is going to advance to try and get as far away as possible and towards the objective. Roll his advance distance, he gets to go an extra 5 inches, so that's 10. So that's enough to get him all the way to here, and within a single 5-inch move of the objective next turn. Obviously, he wasn't able to shoot at the Space Marine because the Space Marine is in engagement range of a friendly model, so no downside to advancing in this case, but that's the end of my turn because my warrior in melee still can't hit him for some reason.
And now we're on to Space Marines turn 4. So on my turn, the Assault Intercessor is going to fall back from the Necron he's engaged with. He is probably going to get shot at quite a lot, but if I stay in combat, and even if I kill this Necron, I won't be able to get in charge range of that Necron if he's on the objective, so I think it's better to fall back now, so later I can move and potentially charge that Necron. But that's it for Space Marines turn 4, on to Necrons turn 4.
And then in my turn, the warrior going for the objective was able to move, and he's only moved a 5-inch move, so he can still shoot. And the one who was engaged with the Space Marine just moved up a little bit. And then both of them will shoot at him. The one on the objective is not within 12 inches, so I'll only get 1 shot there. I'll do all 3 shots at once, 2 from the one close to him, because there's only 1 target. Hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits, and wounding on 4s. Oh, 2 wounds.
Yeah, that's important. Got to make one of these. 2 4+ saves. Oh, I made both. And it's probably worth noting that the Necrons don't actually get to have a charge phase, but if they did, he could just charge this Necron warrior into combat, and then the Space Marine wouldn't be able to do anything on my last turn, and the Necrons would win. But that is not the case, so the Space Marines do get a final turn to try and win the game, as we head into Space Marines turn 5 and the last turn of the game. So the Assault Intercessor is just going to move up normally, and he's going to take a shot with his pistol at the Necron that's on the objective. He has a single shot hitting on a 3. He missed. So he's going to have to charge the Necron. Well, just see what we get and see if that's enough. He gets a 7. That's just enough to get him within an inch. Now, apparently this game's going to go down to the wire as the Space Marine charges the Necron. Then he's got to finish the job with his chainsaw. He's got 2 attacks hitting on 3s. Getting a single hit again. I think he's got 1 out of 2 every time. And he wounds on a 4. He didn't wound. And with that failure to wound the Necron, at the start of Necron turn 5, there is a Necron warrior on the objective, so the Necrons will win the game, and presumably reach the stasis chamber where the nobility is residing. So that is definitely a Necron victory. We'll set up the board again and we'll do a best of 3 like we usually do. So the board has been reset, so we're on to Space Marines turn 1. I'm going to switch up my tactics a little bit. I'm actually going to advance both the Assault Intercessors because they won't be in range if they just move normally, and I'm going to risk the rapid fire so that I can get some easier charges in the turn after, I think. So I'll just roll for both of them. So the Assault Intercessor nearest the camera gets to go an extra 1, and the other one gets to go an extra 6. So the Assault Intercessors have moved up, and obviously they advance so they can't shoot, even though the one at the top is in range. And that'll be it for Space Marines turn 1, on to Necrons turn 1.
So all 3 of my Necrons are going to move up normally again. These 2 up the top are both in double shot range of this Assault Intercessor at the top. So we'll start the shooting phase with them. I'll start with this one here who's closest, I suppose. So he has 2 shots hitting on 3s. We've got 1 hit, and it wounds on 4. It did.
4+ save. Failed, so that is a wound on that Assault Intercessor.
I'm going to do the other Necron closest to him as well, who's also within 12 inches, so he gets 2 shots, which hit on 3, so he got 1. And wounds on a 4. Did not wound this time. So 1 wound on that Assault Intercessor, and then this Necron down here is not within rapid fire range of either of the 2 of them, so he's going to shoot at the wounded one, who is within 24 inches, so he's in range for 1 shot. So the shot hits on a 3, it did, and it wounds on a 4, it did not.
That's the end of Necron's turn 1, on to Space Marines turn 2. Both of the assault intercessors have moved up normally. So I'll start the shooting phase off with this one down here at the bottom. He's going to shoot at the Necron opposite him. He has one shot hitting on a 3. He hit. Wounded on a 4. He didn't. And then that wounded intercessor at the top will actually shoot at the same target. He hits on a 3. He does. He wounds on a 4. He does not. Well, guns don't work, so we have to resort to melee. So we're going to do a charge with this intercessor down at the bottom. He's going to try and charge this Necron opposite him. He needs a 6. He only gets a 5, so that's actually going to fail. Then the assault intercessor at the top, he's actually going to charge this Necron in the middle. And he needs a 4 and gets a 12. So he at least gets into melee with that Necron, gets to strike with his chainsword. 2 attacks hitting on 3s, getting a single hit. And wounding on a 4. He didn't wound. Well, at the very least we can hold up at least one of the Necron warriors. And that's the end of Space Marine's turn 2, on to Necron's turn 2.
So my Necrons have all moved 5 inches. This one in the middle fell back from that intercessor, so he won't be able to shoot, but the other 2 will. And we'll start with this one up the top, who will shoot at the wounded intercessor. So he has 2 shots that hit on 3s. We've got 2 hits, and we're wounding on 4s. We've got 2 wounds, -1 AP.
Yeah, 4 plus save, need to make both. Oh, third one, so the wounded intercessor is killed.
And then the other Necron who can shoot is this one. He'll obviously shoot with the remaining Space Marine. 2 shots hitting on 3s. We've got 1 hit this time, which wounds on 4. That's a 4.
4 plus save. Made it that time. Well, that's the end of Necron's turn 2. Only 1 Space Marine left to try and kill 3 warriors. Let's see if he can do it. And we'll be heading into the Space Marine's turn 3. Well, the remaining intercessor is going to move to a more central position, and then he's making sure he's 2 inches away from that Necron warrior in the middle, so he can't possibly fail his charge. And he's going to fire his pistol at this warrior down here at the bottom. He has a single shot hitting on a 3. He missed. He will try and charge that Necron warrior in the middle. I'll just roll it now. He gets an 8 this time. He gets into contact like that, and will strike with his chainsword. 2 attacks hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Wounds on a 4. Nope. And it's another Space Marine turn. On to Necron's turn 3.
Both of my unengaged Necrons are going to advance this time, and the other one in the middle is just going to hold the Space Marine up, I think. So we'll try and get as close to the objective as possible. So we'll just roll them together. The one towards the bottom of the screen gets to go an extra 4, and the one towards the top, an extra 1.
Yeah, once again, Necrons don't have a fight phase or a charge phase, so that's the end of Necron's turn 3. On to Space Marine's turn 4. This assault intercessor is going to have to earn himself some redemption this turn. I don't think he's actually done any wounds so far in either of the games we've played up to this point. So he's going to start by trying to shoot that Necron he's engaged with. He has 1 shot hitting on a 3. He hit. Wounds on a 4. No, he rolled a 1. So he's going to have to do the job with his chainsword in the fight phase. 2 attacks hitting on 3s. Getting 2 hits this time. He's figured out how to use it. Wounding on 4s. He got a wound at last.
So I need to make a 5+ save. Oh, I didn't.
Oh, we killed a Necron at last.
Yeah, so that finally kills one.
Yeah, and that's it for Space Marine's turn 4. On to Necron's turn 4.
It's looking good for the Necrons, but to win the game, they do actually still have to have a warrior touching the objective at the start of one of their turns, and I've only got this turn to do so, obviously, because the start of my turn 5 is my last turn. So if this Necron warrior doesn't roll, I think, a 2 or more, on his advance roll, he won't actually be able to touch the objective.
Yeah, the other one is in range, but he'll have to roll a 6 on his advance roll, but that's the backup plan.
Rolling for the warrior. Right, he rolled a 6.
Yes.
That was the one closer. So with that distance, he's going to go as far away as possible while still touching the objective to try and make the Space Marine's life as difficult as possible. And then the other Necron warrior is, I don't need another one on the objective, so I'm going to stand there and try and get in the Space Marine's way and make his charge as difficult as possible, so if he's still alive. Yeah. So that warrior who didn't advance can shoot. 2 shots hitting on 3s. Oh, double 1.
Point blank range. Well, that's it. Necron's turn 4. On to Space Marine's turn 5. Assault intercessor has to move around the Necron, so he ends up just under 10 inches away from the Necron warrior that's on the objective, so there's going to be a long charge in his future if he fails to shoot the Necron to death. So he has 1 shot hitting on a 3. He hits. Wounding on a 4. Nope. So he's got to make a 9-inch charge. No, not with a 7. So that failed charge. Space Marine turn 5 is over, and at the start of Necron's turn 5 there is a warrior on the button, so that will be a Necron victory. So that's they win the best of 3. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that and recap these games for you now. So that was the game for issue 7 of Warhammer 40,000 Imperium magazine. How did you think that went?
Well, obviously it did go pretty well for me, but I think probably made it look a little bit easier than it actually might be for the Necrons because, well, firstly, your wound rolls were pretty terrible. I don't think you wounded at all with your pistols.
I think I got probably about 3 wounds across 2 games, something like that.
I certainly didn't have to make many of my saves. And secondly, it's actually quite a strict time limit for the Necrons. If you don't actually get a move on early, or if you roll poorly for your advances, getting a model onto that objective by the beginning of your 5th turn is actually...
Yeah, it is. Both of those games went up to the turn limit. It wasn't until turn 4 when you were finally on the objective. So even though my Space Marines were pretty incompetent, I still came pretty close to winning. If I had killed you in melee in the first game, I would have won. Or if you'd whiffed your advance rolls in the second game, I would have won by default. So the turn limit is really harsh on the Necrons. It'd be interesting. I think there's a fair amount of... This game's actually fairly tactical with what you actually do. Because with the Space Marines, you want to get into melee because you're better in melee, but you risk getting shot up before you get there. So you could hang back, I suppose, but again, you risk getting shot up. And the Necrons, you probably do want to kill at least one of the assault intercessors, but you can't spend too long shooting because you won't have enough time to get on the objective then.
Yeah, and definitely both of those games were doable because I killed one with shooting. Like in the first game, when you actually killed one of the Necrons, if you still had 2 assault intercessors alive, you would just hold them up.
Yeah, and there's a couple of points as well where having pistols is actually really handy because if you manage to shoot a unit you're engaged with completely to death with pistols, you are now engaged and can charge later on. So that is the risk of staying in melee with the Necrons, I think.
Yes, indeed. It was a risk I took in the first game to actually do that at all, and it did okay. But
also the fact that you don't get to charge me either.
Yeah, if I got to charge you, this would be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Although, I think for the Necrons to have a chance, they definitely need to have one more Necron than the Space Marine to have Space Marines. If you had all 3 of your assault intercessors, you'd just be able to hold up all 3 warriors pretty much indefinitely. And in the cases where I did lose a Necron, if I hadn't been able to kill an assault intercessor again, I'd just lose. Because if you're able to just keep charging the Necrons, even if you don't kill them, then they can't really do very much because they can't advance if they fall back, and they can't shoot if they're stuck in melee.
Yeah, I'd easily be able to hold you out for the time of it. And even then, I'm probably fairly likely to actually manage to shoot one of them to death as well.
And again, on average, you probably should do more damage than you did with this assault intercessors because...
If you add up all the dice rolls, I imagine it probably turns up to 50%, like half of all the wound rolls were wounds. Yeah. It's just that you got all of them, I got none of them.
I did quite a lot of wounds, yeah.
But yeah, I guess we could talk about rolling to wound. I think it's actually going to work in the Necrons' favour, I think, because they generally tend to have higher toughness than Space Marines and have fairly powerful guns as well. So
obviously everything in this game was strength and toughness 4, so it was only ever 4s to wound, but I suppose that makes it easy to learn because you don't have to worry about comparing the strength and toughness very much in this game. You just learn how wounding works, and it's always on a fixed roll in this game, and then later on they'll introduce...
Yeah, the table's not exactly hard to learn.
No.
It's just compared to your numbers. Rolling to wound is why the aggressors won't be nearly as good against the destroyers as they were in the previous game. And you're not going to be incinerating destroyers with a flamestorm gauntlet. It's very unlikely to happen.
Or indeed the Royal Warden, because we'll find out soon enough that both of those are supposed to have toughness 5, and so the strength 4 flamestorm gauntlets should only be wounding them on 5s.
I guess it helps differentiate units because you can get units that are much tougher.
Yeah, I suppose you could ask why there is an extra step in there, but it also helps differentiate certain kinds of weapons and things because you might have a weapon that's got a very high strength, which makes it then therefore good at wounding things with high toughness. Things like that would be anti-tank weapons or whatever.
I suppose it gives you a better idea of what units are actually going to be good against.
Yeah, if you have a unit that has several single-shot high-strength attacks, you know they're likely to be good against high-toughness things. Whereas if it has a lot of low-strength attacks, it's probably going to be good against infantry and things like that.
Yeah, and usually units that are really tough tend to have fewer models, and weapons with high strength tend to have fewer attacks.
Yeah, and likewise, the smaller something is, the lower its toughness is going to be, usually, funnily enough. So
4 is like a sort of heavy infantry, so Space Marines are Necrons. Warriors, I'd say, are heavy infantry. Strength 3 and toughness 3 is like an ordinary human.
Yeah.
So Space Marines are superhuman, so they get 4 and 4.
And things with toughness 5 tend to be exceptionally tough troops or maybe light vehicles. And then higher than that, you're looking at monsters and bigger vehicles generally.
Tanks.
We will see a bit of variation in strength and toughness when we get the rules for things like the destroyers and the...
aggressors as well.
Yeah, the aggressors. I suppose this is also the first issue we've got that doesn't come with any models to use. It just came with the 3 paints.
Yeah. And you get the painting guide as well, which is obviously handy for a beginner. It's a bit odd you don't use the grey paint in any of the painting tutorials, but sure it'll show up later.
Yeah. Even on the bits that you'd think might be grey, like the masonry on the captain's base, which won't necessarily paint it white for some reason. But
I'm sure we'll use it in the future. But otherwise, I don't think there's too much more to say about this game or this issue. So if you like this content, do leave a like and subscribe, and leave any comments. If you played this game, tell us how you got on. That would be quite interesting to know. Or any other comments you would like to leave. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.